Namaste, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Swami Narayan, Jai Siya Ram, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Yog Foundation's Vande Mataram 2021. This is our event to celebrate India's Republic Day. Now, on the 26th of January 1950, the Indian Constitution came into effect, officially marking India as an independent republic. And those of you who have celebrated this day back in India will know that it's a grand occasion with lots of celebrations. Now, whilst we are not in India, many of us would consider it our mother country, the home of our faith, the land of our ancestors, the roots of our culture and traditions, and the source of our identity. So for Yog Foundation, Vande Mataram is a chance to bring our community together for our culture, to discuss topics that are important to us, and to remember what it means to be Indian. Now, this is our 6th year celebrating Indian Republic Day. We would usually be celebrating at Townley Grammar School, but given the current circumstances and the lockdown, we are bringing this event to you live, virtually, from the comfort of your own home. So before we get into the event, a little bit of housekeeping. Now, technology has been wonderful to us during this lockdown. However, sometimes it can fail. So if you do find that your stream, YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, is not working, please go back to the original link, online.yogfoundation.org.foundation/Republic Day, and keep refreshing that link until the stream loads back up again. As I mentioned, we are streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook, so you can find us at any of those places. Right, we have, also I should mention, send us your comments and wishes on YouTube and Facebook. If you put your comments in there, we'll get those comments and add them to our stream, and we can share those comments with everyone. Right, so we've got a packed schedule for you this evening. We are going to kick off the evening with some Desh Bhakti by the youth of Yog Foundation. We'll then have a heartwarming performance by the children of Yog Foundation, representing the diversity of our community and all the languages of India. So they're going to share their best wishes. Next, we'll have an educational film produced by the Yog Foundation Year 8 Moral Values class, explaining exactly what India Republic Day is all about and why it's such an important day. We'll then have a dance performance by more youth from the Yog Foundation. There's a bit of a pattern here you might be noticing. We've got some wonderful youth, and this is a chance for them to showcase their talent. Following these performances, we have a very important and insightful panel discussion on COVID-19, this pandemic. And we have 3 really accomplished guests, Dr. Nikhil Bhatia, Dr. Gondhia, and Amarjeetji Bhamra, who are joining us for this panel discussion. This will be interactive, so feel free to send in your questions for our guests. Finally, we'll be ending our evening with the Song of India. So yes, let's get started. Our first part of the session will be some Desh Bhakti. Sangeet is a big part of the fabric of India, with such a rich history and tradition, which goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. So I'm always amazed by the sheer diversity of music we have in India. Today, we have some young performers who will be showcasing their talent and that diversity. So we're going to start with a bhajan by Gunjan and Girish, who are there. Hello, Gunjan and Girish.
Hello. Namaste.
Namaste. What are you going to be singing for us?
We'll be singing Sare Jahan Se Achhe.
Brilliant.
Sare Jahan Se Acha Hindustan पर्वत हो सबसे ऊंचा, हम साया आसमां का। पर्वत हो सबसे ऊंचा, हम साया आसमां का। वो संतरी हमारा, वो बसबा हमारा, हमारा सारे जहां से अच्छा। हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हमारा सारे जहां से अच्छा। गोदी में खेलती है इसकी हजारों नदियाँ, गोदी में खेलती है इसकी हजारों नदियाँ। गुलशन है जिनके दम से रश के जहां, हमारा, हमारा सारे जहां से अच्छा। हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हमारा सारे जहां से अच्छा। मजहब नहीं सिखाता आपस में बैर रखना, मजहब नहीं सिखाता आपस में बैर रखना। हिंदी है हम, हिंदी है हम, हिंदी है हम, वतन है हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हमारा सारे जहां से अच्छा। सारे जहां से अच्छा, सारे जहां से अच्छा, सारे जहां से अच्छा। जय हिंद।
Thank you very much to Gunjan and Girish for a lovely performance of Sara Jahan Se Acha. Next, we have Ravi, who's going to be performing the trumpet. So we've got a video here from Ravi. Let's play that.
Hello everyone, today I will be playing you the Indian National Anthem.
Thank you very much there for a brilliant performance by Ravi on the trumpet. I've never heard the Song of India on the trumpet, so that's really nice. Next, we are going to move on to Ishanvi, who is going to be singing for us. Hi, Ishanvi. Namaste.
Namaste. I'm going to be singing Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, 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 Vande Mataram. Sujalam Supalam Malayaj Shitalam Sashashamalam Mataram Vande. Sujalam Supalam Malayaj Shitalam Sashashamalam Mataram Vande. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Shubhra Jyotsna Pulkita Yaminim Fulla Kusumita Jumadala Shubhanim. Shubhra Jyotsna Pulkita Yaminim Fulla Kusumita Jumadala Shubhanim. Suhasinim Sumadura Bhashinim Sukadam Varadam Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Sapta Koti Kanta Karakala Ninad Karale Sapta Koti Bhajedata Karakarvale. Sapta Koti Kanta Karakala Ninad Karale Sapta Koti Bhajedata Karakarvale. Kabul Kanu Mai To Bole Bahubala Dharinim Namami Tarinim Ripudala Varinim Mataram Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Tvanhi Durga Dasha Praranadarini Kamala Kamala Dalvaviharini Vani Vidyadayini Namami Tvam. Namami Kamalam Amalam Atulam Sujalam Supalam Mataram. Shamalam Saralam Sushmitam Bhukshitam Dharinim Bharinim Mataram. Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram.
Thank you so much, Ishanvi, for that amazing, powerful, passionate rendition of Vande Mataram. Thank you. We are now going to move on to our final performance for our Desh Bhakti, and that will be from Pranati. Namaste, Pranati. Oh,
Namaste. I'll be singing something called Hindu Desh Ke Nivasi. Okay. हिंद देश के निवासी सभी जन एक है, रंग रूप वेश भाषा चाहे अनेक है। हिंद देश के निवासी सभी जन एक है, रंग रूप वेश भाषा चाहे अनेक है। बेला गुलाब चूही चंपा चमेली, बेला गुलाब चूही चंपा चमेली, प्यार प्यार फूल गुदे माला में एक है, प्यार प्यार फूल गुदे माला में एक है। हिंद देश के निवासी सभी जन एक है, रंग रूप वेश भाषा चाहे अनेक है। कोयल के कूक न्यारे पपी के तेरे प्यारे, कोयल की कूक न्यारे पपी के तेरे प्यारे, गा रही तराना राग मगर एक है, गा रही तराना बुलबुल राग मगर एक है। हिंद देश के निवासी सभी जन एक है, रंग रूप वेश भाषा चाहे अनेक है। गंगा यमुना ब्रह्मपुत्र कृष्णा कावेरी, गंगा यमुना ब्रह्मपुत्र कृष्णा कावेरी, जाके मिल गई सागर में हुई सब एक है, जाके मिल गई सागर में हुई सब एक है। हिंद देश के निवासी सभी जन एक है, रंग वेश भाषा चाहे अनेक है। दम है अनेक जन का सार वही है, दम है अनेक जन का सार वही है। पंथ है निराले सबकी मंजिल तो एक है, पंथ है निराले सबकी मंजिल तो एक है। हिंद देश के निवासी सभी जन एक है, रंग रूप वेश भाषा चाहे अनेक, चाहे अनेक है, चाहे अनेक है। Happy Republic Day.
Wow, thank you very much, Pranati. Lovely performance again with so much passion and so much smiling and happiness. So thank you for that performance, and thank you to all of our Desh Bhakti singers. If you enjoyed that, then why don't we do bhajans every day actually, every evening from 6:30 to 7 on Zoom. We have daily story time and bhajans. So why don't you join us? Join us for bhajans every day, and you can hear some of our wonderful singers that we have at the Yog Foundation. Right. Next we have a amazing performance showcasing the diversity of India and the diversity of our community, Indian community here in Bexley. So we've got some best wishes from some of the children from our moral value classes, Hindi classes and Gujarati classes. Let's play this video.
जन्मभूमि स्वर्ग तपी गरियसी। जय हिंद, जय भारत, भारत माता की जय।
Namaste, Vande Mataram, Jai Hind, thank you.
मातरम, वंदे मातरम। जय जवान जय किसान, लाल बहादुर शास्त्री। जय विज्ञान अब्दुल कलाम। जय हिंद।
हरे भरे तेरे महक दे, अपना पिंड ते अपना खेत, दो चीज़ां तू बारी जावा, एक पंजाब ते एक मेरा देश। जय हिंद।
India became republic on Jan 26, 1950. On this a Saturday, Jayate, that means truth alone triumphs, was adopted as a national motto. This inscribes at the base of the national emblem. Jai Hind.
26 जनवरी 1950 को ही हमारा संविधान लागू हुआ था। इस संविधान को डॉक्टर B.R. अम्बेडकर ने लिखा था।
नई वस्त्र, ये ध्वज देश की शान है, ये भारतीय की ध्वजों के स्वाभिमान है। यही है गंगा, यही है हिमालय, यही इनकी जान है, यही अपना हिंदुस्तान है, यही अपना हिंदुस्तान है। जय हिंद। ये दुनिया एक दुल्हन दुल्हन के माथे की बिंदिया, ये मेरा इंडिया, ये मेरा इंडिया। I love my India, I love my India.
મારું નામ કાવ્યા છે.
મારું નામ મનસી છે.
અમે ગુજરાતના છે. ભારત માતા की जय.
नमस्कार. आपल्या सर्वांस प्रजासत्ताक दिनाच्या हार्दिक शुभेच्छा. जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र.
மகாகவி சுப்பிரமணிய பாரதி நமது தேசத்தின் பன்முக தன்மையில் ஒற்றுமையை பற்றி கூறினார். 30 கோடி முகமுடையாள் உயிர் மொய்ப்பெறும் ஒன்றுடையாள், இவள் செப்பம் அளிப்பது நெட்டுடையாள், எனக்கு சிந்தனை ஒன்றுடையாள். அதுபோல் இந்த 72வது குடியரசு தினத்தன்று எல்லோரும் ஒற்றுமையாக நம் புனித தேசத்திற்கு வணக்கத்தை தெரிவிப்போம். எல்லோருக்கும் இனிய குடியரசு தின வாழ்த்துக்கள். ஜெய் ஹிந்த்.
Sculpture resides in the heart and in the soul of its people. ఒక దేశం యొక్క సంస్కృతి హృదయాల్లో మరియు దాని ప్రజల ఆత్మలో నివాసిస్తుంది. బై మహాత్మా గాంధీ.
जन गण मन अतिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता. पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ तमिल बंगा. जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
भारत मेरा है, भारत आपका है, भारत हमारा है. जिस दिन हमें ये अधिकार मिला उस दिन की हम सबको हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं. जय हिंद.
Wow, amazing. Again, so much diversity there in terms of languages and so many different ages of children. They're so talented. I am always amazed by their talents. So thank you all for all of your hard work for creating these videos, to the parents who recorded and to those who helped to compile this into this wonderful video. As you may have noticed, we had a number of languages there that people were speaking. Did you know that the Yog Foundation actually offers free Hindi and Gujarati classes every week? Our classes are highly interactive with role play based learning, and they're absolutely free. So if you are interested in enrolling your children to these classes, please go to the Yog Foundation website and get them registered and keep our languages alive. Right, now to the next part of our event. Now, you might be asking, what is Republic Day of India and why do we celebrate this day? Well, the Yog Foundation Year 8 Moral Values class set about answering this question, and they created this educational film for tonight's event. I must mention that this entire film was all the way from the idea, script, recording, editing, all was done by this class. No involvement of any adults, which is incredible. Let's take a look at this film.
Hello, this is LIC News, and the date is the 26th of January 1950. Today, India's own constitution has come into effect after the British left the country 2 years ago.
There have been several reactions from several different states. In New Delhi, there's been large parades and many celebrations for the splendour of a grand event. They are parading from Rashtrapati Bhavan to the Indian Gate. For now, let's go to our correspondent, Bhuvan, and he sure does have a special treat for us today.
For now, though, let's head to Dr. Ambedkar, the very drafter of this constitution. Over to you, Bhuvan.
Thanks, Ritvik and AJ. I'm here with Bharat Ratna Dr. Ambedkar. So, Dr. Ambedkar, you've been credited as the chief architect of the Constitution of India. Can you tell me what makes it so special?
Today is a proud day for India and its citizens, and it has been my privilege as a Minister of Law for the Independent India and as Chairman of the Constitution Committee to establish our first constitution. This will be one of the world's longest constitutions and a collection of 470 articles grouped into 25 parts. I think the most unique part of the Indian Constitution is that it is the most detailed constitution ever written. The constitution written has helped to stop the discrimination on the basis of caste. It also has special quotas in government jobs and educational institutions for the scheduled castes and tribes, the lowest in the caste hierarchy.
So, on the occasion of Republic Day, what's your key message to the Indian public?
My message to the Indian public is very clear. Today, we are going to enter into a life of contradictions. In politics, we'll have equality, and in social and economic structure, continue to deny the principle of one man, one value. How long shall we continue to live this life of contradictions? How long shall we continue to deny equality in our social and economic life? If we continue to deny it for long, we will do so only by putting our political democracy in peril. We must remove this contradiction at the earliest possible moment, else those who suffer from inequality will blow up the structure of our democracy, which this Constituent Assembly has so laboriously built up.
Thank you, Bharat Ratna Dr. Ambedkar. That's all from me. I'm Bhuvan Jamani from LIC News. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Bhuvan. Now over to Ananya, currently in West Bengal, where there have been many riots following the Indian Constitution. Over to our West Bengal correspondent, Ananya.
Thank you. Here in West Bengal, we have been greatly affected by these recent events. Many people here have become great martyrs for this country, such as Mahatma Gandhi. However, it is not as glorious as it all seems. Many riots have broken out here between the Hindu, Muslim and Sikh population. There are some scenes of total chaos, and the police are struggling to control them. We will now hear the opinion of a local civilian.
Namaste, I am very happy to have the chance to present my view to the nation. I was pleased to hear that Republic Day will now become a national holiday, as it is necessary to honour the people that helped to make India what it is today.
Thank you, Tashvi. How do you feel about the current riots?
I am fortunate enough to have different forms of security around my house, so I am not an easy target for the rioters. However, I am terrified for my community, especially for those who are not as fortunate as me. Terrible things have been going on, such as looting and many other forms of violence. This is my plea to the country. Please choose the path set by Gandhi. Choose ahimsa, because violence is never the answer.
Thank you so much for this great insight, Tashvi. I will now hand it back over to AJ and Ritvik.
Thanks, Ananya and Tashvi, for their great insight. Here we have more from the Madras state. Let's hear from our correspondent, Arya. How has it been in the Madras state? Any celebrations? Are you considering doing anything yourself? I bet the atmosphere is astronomical there.
Hello Ajay and Namaste everyone. Today I am reporting from the newly formed Madras state. Until today, it was the Madras province, but now it has been turned into a proper state by the government of India. Everyone here is in high spirits. I will now be speaking to Mr. Tanapan, a resident of Madras state, to see what he thinks about the recent changes in Madras and India as a whole. So, Mr. Tanapan, what do you think?
Namaste. I am very happy that the Madras province has finally become a state. It will drastically improve the lives of our citizens. I think today will be a very important event in the history of our country, because now we will be truly free from British rule.
And why do you think that, Mr. Tanapan?
It is a breakthrough for people like me, because from now we will have a government of our own people, for our own people, and by our own people, as guaranteed by our own constitution. Even though we gained independence in 1947, now we can say we are truly independent.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Mr. Tanapan. Back to the studio.
Splendid report on that, Arya. Let's go to our reporter in Gujarat. What fantastic things have been happening in Gujarat, Sahaj and Ruhi?
Namaste everyone. Today there is an Indian Republic special here in Gujarat. I have a very special guest who has joined me today and I'm going to be interviewing her. Question 1. On Republic Day, how do you celebrate in Gujarat?
Okay, so, well, in Gujarat, children from different schools participate in many different activities, such as a parade and pageants. They also perform folk dances of different regions that show colourful kaleidoscopic fabric. You can see the streak of jet planes which leave behind a colourful stream of powder.
On which date did the Constitution come into effect in India?
Well, it came into effect on the 26th of January, turning India into a new republic nation. That date is now an official holiday known as India's Republic Day.
Who is called father of Indian Constitution?
B.R. Ambedkar, Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. He was born in Maharashtra on the 14th of April in 1891 and died on the 6th of December in 1956. He went to the London School of Economics and Political Science from 1916 to 1922. He was one of the greatest leaders India has ever seen.
And finally, how do you celebrate Republic Day with your family?
Well, I celebrate with Yog Foundation. We sing the national anthem, we do fireworks outside, and then we get to eat lots of yummy food.
Thank you for listening, everyone. Have a good one. Goodbye.
For now, that is it from LIC News. This day will mark Indian history, and we are glad to be reporting to you. Don't forget to watch tomorrow's news. Thank you again from AJ and Ritvik, and enjoy yourself on this wonderful day. Thanks to all our reporters. Dhanyavad.
Thank you and have a nice day.
Wow, I don't know what to say. That was an incredibly professional, entertaining, informative news broadcast. And I have to say, I think we've got some future news anchors right there who have got a budding career ahead there in media. I'm going to repeat once more, that was all produced by the Year 8 class, who are age 13 or so, 13, 14, all by themselves. They did all the research, they did all of the scripting and creation of the video. So I thought that was incredible. So thank you once again to all of that hard work that you all put into that. Next, we are going to go to we're going to showcase another part of Indian culture, which is dance. Despite the lockdown, some of the girls of the Yog Foundation have come together to create this wonderful dance video. So let's take a look.
जो शहीद हुए हैं उनकी सराया करो कुर्बानी। संदेशे आते हैं हमें तड़पाते हैं, वो चिट्ठी आती है तो पूछे जाते हैं कि घर कब आओगे, कि घर कब आओगे, लिखो कब आओगे कि तुम दिन ये घर सुना सुना है। मैं गया जहाँ भी बस तेरी याद थी, जो मेरे साथ थी मुझको तड़पाती रुलाती, सबसे प्यारी तेरी सूरत प्यार है बस तेरा प्यारी माँ, तुझे सलाम, तुझे सलाम, तुझे सलाम।
अब तो हमें आगे बढ़ते हैं रहना, अब तो हमें साथी है बस इतना ही कहना।
कंधों से मिलते हैं कंधे, कदमों से कदम मिलते हैं, हम चलते हैं जब ऐसे तो दिल दुश्मन के हिलते हैं। टिंग 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 थोड़ी सी धूल मेरी धरती की मेरे वतन की, थोड़ी सी खुशबू पर आई सी मस्त पवन की, थोड़ी सी धोखने वाली धक 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 सांसें, जिनमें हो जुनू जुनू वो बूंदे लाल लहू की। ये सब तू मिला मिला ले, फिर रंग तू खिला खिला ले, और मोहित रंग दे बसंती यारा, मोहित रंग दे बसंती। झुके तेरे आगे सर, तेरी गोद मेरा घर है, तुझे सलाम इंडिया। झुके तेरे आगे सर, तेरी गोद मेरा घर है, तुझे सलाम इंडिया।
भारत हमको जान से प्यारा है, सबसे न्यारा गुलिस्ता हमारा है। भारत हमको जान से प्यारा है, सबसे न्यारा गुलिस्ता हमारा है।
मेरे देश की धरती मेरे देश की धरती सोना उगले उगले हीरे मोती, मेरे देश की धरती, मेरे देश की धरती।
देश मेरे मेरी जान है तू, देश मेरे मेरी जान है तू, देश मेरे मेरी शान है तू, देश मेरे मेरी शान है तू। ए वतन हमको तेरी कसम, तेरी राहों में जान तक निभा जाएंगे, भूल क्या चीज है तेरे कदमों में, हम बेटे अपने सरों की चढ़ा जाएंगे। ए वतन, ए वतन।
Wow, that was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Amazing performance by some of the girls of Yog Foundation. Thank you. It's not easy to put something like that together remotely and then sync it all into one piece, one video. So that was really well done. Thank you to all of those who participated, the choreographers and the video editors as well, for making a wonderful clip there. Right, that is the end of our kind of cultural sharing part of today's session. We're now going to move on to the panel discussion. We're going to be talking about a topic that we all have been affected by, and that is COVID-19. So I'm going to hand it over to Bhavin for our panel discussion. Now, I must, before I do hand it over to Bhavin, I want to say a few things that you may not know about Bhavin, actually. He is one of the Yog Foundation directors, and he was recently awarded an NBE by Her Majesty the Queen in the New Year's 2021 honours list for services to business and British Hinduism. So this is a testament to the work that Bhavin has done over the last 25 years in the community development, youth development, and the promotion of the Hindu faith. We are extremely proud to see his dedication being recognized nationally. So well done once again, Bhavin, and over to you, Bhavin Pathak, MBE.
Thank you very much, Chetan. I must say it is an honour to have received that award. Haven't quite received the award yet, just been notified of it. And one of the questions that have come up when people have heard about the honours list is, how do I get one? Well, the truth of the matter is I don't know, because I didn't apply for this. This is something that someone is recognized for, recommended for entirely anonymously. But I do hope, look, that it's as a basis we can do a lot more as a result of it. But enough of that. We have gathered here today to celebrate Vande Mataram, which is Bharatiya Prajasatak Divas, the Indian Republic Day that we heard and learnt so much about in the earlier performances from the children. Weren't they fantastic? They were absolutely brilliant. And I'm completely amazed by the talent there and the motivation and how proactive these kids were in putting these together. But now we're going to move on to something a little bit more serious. That is actually also why many of us have joined this program here this evening. Before I introduce, I hope they're here online. Let me know if they're not our guest doctors. Let's have a quick jingle, and we'll go on to introducing our guests for this evening. Probably didn't know they had to do it. Right, so this evening we're going to talk about COVID-19. Now, the important stuff. We don't want to make this all about doom and gloom, but actually something that's educational and informative for all our people here. So Namaste, once again, my name is Vande Maataram. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Swaminarayan, Jai Shri Aram to everyone who's joining us this evening from, I can see, all over the world. COVID-19 has completely changed the world. It's taken by surprise. It's been a shock. And only today we've heard that in the UK, very sadly, the death rate has reached 100,000. So let's spare a thought for all those people who have lost a loved one during the course of this most horrific pandemic. Also, a lot of people have been impacted not just by health, but also their livelihoods, their jobs, their businesses, and many people their way of life. So it's a very serious situation. This evening, we're going to talk to a number of healthcare professionals or medical professionals. First of all, two very prominent doctors. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Dr. Ricky Gondhia. He's been a part of Yog Foundation for a number of years now, helping us with our health awareness campaigns, where we've done seminars and things like that. Dr. Gondhia has a wide range of specialist clinical experience, including pediatrics, emergency medicine, gynecology, and ENT. Within the NHS, he was a general practitioner and partner, and has now transitioned to focus on delivering excellent private practice in the City of London. Outside of clinical work, he was the principal clinical lead in his borough and a clinical director for an NHS trust. He's made a number of radio and television appearances, including BBC News, Radio 5 Live, City Hospital, and he's also hosted Click Clinic, the One Click Clinic, the online health channel featured on YouTube. Please, can we welcome Dr. Ricky Gondhia this evening as well.
Good evening. Hi there. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, and can you hear me? Phrases of 2020 that we.
Yes, my room is a bit more untidy than your room, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's only this section that is really tidy. So all very stage managed. But before we get talking, I'm gonna invite Dr. Nikhil Bhatia on as well. If I could just introduce Dr. Bhatia again, a member and active participant at Yog Foundation. Only recently did I discover Dr. Bhatia, if we can put it on the screen for everybody. He's a consultant accident emergency and acute intensive care doctor. And he's currently practicing at Medway Darrant Valley Hospital in Kent. So very much on the front line. He's one of our heroes, who we stand outside and we clap for all those people who have been working so hard. So he is one of them indeed. Okay, so you could introduce Dr. Bhatia once he's online. Just got a very distracted chat going on.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me? Hello.
Excellent. Okay, you're there with family. Fantastic, yeah. Dr. Bhatia. Great. Okay, so you can hear me?
Yep. Clear.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
All right, good. If we can bring on Dr. Gondhia along with Dr. Bhatia. Hear you? Yes. Very well. I think there's a bit of a lag or a delay. But bear with me. If it gets too worse, we'll something different. So it might be at my end. I do apologise. So if we can have Dr. Bhatia on as well. Go on to Dr. Gondhia's question on. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID-19, the first of all, Ricky, if you could talk about, we hear about Asians or BAME, Black and ethnic minority groups being more at risk from COVID-19. I mean, how much truth is there in that? Actually, are you finding that, and obviously we're more interested in from those of South Asian origin, genuinely the case that they are at great risk?
I think it's fair to say that we are at greater risk. We're certainly seeing a disproportionate amount of Black, Asian and minority ethnic groups having serious consequences of COVID-19. The reasons why, I don't think anyone's sure. You could guess that it might be due to our families, multi-generational living, close families, close communities, and a virus spreads amongst people. And so anything where people are together more, that might actually be a reason why it potentially spreads more in our communities. Also, we have a high proportion of people that work on the front line in medicine, dentistry, and so if you're when the message for everyone is to stay at home, but if you've got people in your family who are working on the front line, you've got more chance of maybe bringing it into the household. So there's various hypotheses as to why people of our background are having an increased risk, and there's some of the reasons.
Right, and Nick, have you been noticing that as well in ICU? I mean, I know where you are. They're not necessarily a high portion of Asians or South Asians or Indian, but are you seeing that there are a disproportionately higher number of BAME patients in your care?
Yeah, I think we saw this more so in the first wave, when more of the Black and Asian people were coming in. I think also, this is what observationally we see, is that within Black and Asian community, you have high proportion of obesity and diabetes. And it somehow seems that this, there's COVID likes that kind of a picture, and these patients get seriously sick further down. So we see them in intensive care as well. And the second wave, it's been slightly less so, but I think the variant has been slightly different in the second wave.
Right. Yeah, which we should surely talk about. I want to focus, if I may, a bit on the vaccine and the rollout. We'll come on to a few myths, because there's been a concern that we read about or hear about that because of the world of fake news and WhatsApp and all that sort of stuff, forwarding things. And I really, frankly, I don't know who these people are who are making up this stuff and sending this stuff around. They really need to get a life. But before we go to sort of busting those myths, is more, what's the picture like, Ricky, in terms of, or Dr. Gondhia, I should say, in terms of the rollout of vaccines? Who is it being offered to? How much is it? Is it a cost that we have to pay for or something? And really, what's the picture like in terms of getting a vaccination right now?
Okay, you can call me Ricky, by the way. But in terms of the vaccine rollout, I mean, it's the biggest operation, the vaccine operation, the NHS has ever undertaken. It's absolutely immense, and it just had to be done. We've got a massive pandemic. It's killing people, and so it had to mobilise a huge operation. And it was decided that the order in which people would be vaccinated would be in order of priority for people that would most likely to succumb to this virus. So that's why you're getting the care homes first, the care home workers first. You'll have the over 80s first, and then they'll work down a priority list. So by age, so you'll get the 75 to 80s, and then the 70 to 75s will taper down, prioritizing those who are at most risk. They're also going to do frontline health workers in that first cohort. So we're hoping those kind of groups will be done by mid-February. I think the government is online to deliver that by mid-February. And then as you work through February to April, it's going to be by age pretty much going down, or if people have got underlying health conditions, that's the next cohort of people that will get vaccinated. And then after spring and into the autumn, it will be everyone else, basically. And so it's working down the priorities. In terms of cost, there's not a cost to the patient, there's no cost to us at all. It's free for all, and we should all be taking it. Obviously, there is a cost to the government. They're quite cagey about how much that cost is. And at the end of the day, it's been bought for us. It's been proven to work. It saves lives. And there is a lot of myths out there, as you alluded to. Fake news. I mean, WhatsApp is probably the worst thing for this, because it's so easy to pass on bad information very, very quickly. And if you're kind of swaying one way or another, we can talk about why people might do that. But if you're being swayed with bad information, this might end up meaning people not being vaccinated, not protecting themselves, not protecting their families, and that's not what we want to be seeing.
Not at all, not at all. And what does it look like? So if I fit that age bracket, I don't. But if I did and I was vulnerable and everything else, what would happen? Would I get a phone call, or do I have to apply for it? And then once I get that phone call, or once I apply for it, where do I turn up? What happens? Do I get a fever after getting the vaccine, or should I be ill? And when does the second shot? Just walk us through the process of being vaccinated.
Sure. So the vaccine is in terms of how it's organised, it's all done centrally. So often there's this kind of talk about go back to your GP and find out when you're going to get your vaccine. Actually, your GP won't know. It's organised at a slightly higher level than that. So the recall system, in terms of how you get called for the COVID vaccine, is actually happening more on a central level, and it's according to coding that happens in your GP practice. So your GP practice will know how old you are, whether you have underlying conditions. Some people who work in medical environments are going to their GP to make sure they're coded as being medical people, so that they're being called at the right time. But basically, it is unfortunately a case of sitting and waiting. There isn't actually an avenue to go down and find out when your turn is going to come. There are systems in place to call you, and the unfortunate answer for this is you just need to wait until your turn. My real thing is that it's becoming apparent with the vaccination program that there is a disparity in BAME populations in uptake of the vaccine. So despite being called in for the vaccine, people aren't going. So if I told you that in some studies have been done, and in white populations, the likeliness of someone saying yes to a vaccine, they're saying 90% of people of a white background will say, a white British background will say they're going to have the vaccine. South Asians are less than 80%, so it's not miles off, but we definitely have less of an inclination to say yes. And people of black origin are less than 30%. So that is a real, they did some data. I was reading some data the other day that the DNA rate, the DNA is what medics call did not attend. So you did not attend your appointment. It's 2 to 3% in white populations, and it's 20 to 30% in BAME populations for the vaccine in certain areas in this country. I can't hear you, but I didn't talk about. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's really worrying. But I think it would be helpful if you kind of set out how that sort of process works from once someone does get invited for a vaccine.
So you'll get a call. Often it's a call. It can be a letter. It'll outline exactly where you need to go. Vaccines aren't always. It's not always done at your local GP surgery. Normally, GP surgeries group together into groups called PCNs. It's a new initiative that's come in the past couple of years. And each PCN is tasked with delivering the vaccines for that area. And so they might have set it up in a church, or they might have set it up in the Excel Centre. So each area will be different, but the notification that you get will be to attend an appointment in one of these places. And it will say very clearly where you need to go, at what time you need to go, to take this letter with you, and to go and get your vaccine. Yeah. Okay.
And does it tend to be a long queue there, or?
No, it's actually, I've been to a couple, and it's very slick. It's done in 5-minute appointments. There's a flow system to try and keep people separate. It's not a free for all. You're meant to turn up at the time of your appointment. There are some different systems in some places, but it is the whole point of. We're trying to avoid people having contact with each other, so they are doing it in a staggered approach. So there shouldn't be a big mad rush when you get there.
And Dr. Bhatia, I understand, Nick, that you've been vaccinated because you need to be a frontline worker. What was the experience like for you? Did you sort of collapse with fever on the day, or it was just like getting any other injection?
I really didn't have much reaction. It was pretty much like getting the flu vaccine for me. With the second dose, I had a little bit of arm pain, and that's about it, which was expected, but nothing untoward to say that I felt sick. Some of my colleagues did feel a little bit feverish, but then it settled from their experience that they have given. So I haven't heard of much major reaction from among my colleagues who have been given both the doses.
Excellent. Okay. And so there might be slight reaction depending on how the body reacts, but generally nothing to worry. Well, we'll come on well, why don't we talk about the myths? But part of them, the reason I think Dr. Gondhia you've alluded to in terms of why the uptake is not as much as it should be or needs to be among the Asian or Indian population is perhaps because the aunties and the uncles are sharing these WhatsApp videos and clips and things that are spreading all sorts of nonsense. We've got a few slides on this. If you could perhaps talk us through them and dispel some of these myths. I mean, the first one, I might catch COVID-19 from the vaccine. Now, technically that's false, but can you explain why that is?
Yeah, so the vaccine is a set of instructions for your body to create a protein that is similar to the spike protein that you keep hearing about on COVID-19. So it's literally just instructions to make this protein, and then it just dissipates. And once that protein is in your body, your body sets up an immune response. And so our natural immunity looks for things that shouldn't be there and creates immunity cells to fight them. And the whole point is to create your immunity cells. And actually, Dr. Bhatia said sometimes you kind of feel a little bit unwell. It's your body's immune. The whole point is that when your body's creating this immunity is when you start feeling a little bit unwell and feverish. It means the vaccine is working, but there is no active COVID-19. The actual virus isn't in there. It's just instructions to create a tiny protein which is on the outside of the virus.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. There's a few to get through. The next one is COVID-19. All it is some food.
No, yeah,
it's false.
it's clearly false. You're 10 times more likely, at least, to die from flu than you are from COVID-19. It's caused, yeah. So it's yeah. So sorry, I said that the wrong way around. You're much more likely to die from COVID-19 than you are from the flu. It's you know, you've already lost 100,000 people from it. That's over 10 times the number of deaths we had from the flu.
Yeah, so evidently is a lot more dangerous, and I think this time around a lot of us are hearing about people who have suffered quite severely from COVID-19 during the wave, if you like. I'm going to claim this one. I'm so young, I don't need the vaccine. True? No, it's false. Why is that, Ricky?
Yeah, we're seeing. I think we're seeing younger people get more unwell with COVID at the moment. I've had recent stories of people in their 30s, and so these are fit individuals who are being hospitalised with COVID-19.
If I may,
so COVID-19 does. Sorry.
If I may comment on this, it's definitely. We are seeing a lot younger patients in intensive care who within the mid-40s or 48, a couple of asthmatic have died. So it is not so the case. Do need the vaccine to be safe.
Really? So you're seeing a lot younger patients in intensive care because of COVID-19. And that's certainly something we've anecdotally, so it is certainly the case with COVID-19. It does not discriminate by age. It does, for some reason, potentially discriminate by ethnicity and race, but that may be more lifestyle reasons than anything else, as we've heard from Dr. Gondhia. The myth we want to bust is also false, that the vaccine causes irreversible side effects. Let's go to the next one, because one of the side effects that I talked about, if we look at the next slide, is fertility effects. This is not true. Dr. Gondhia, if you could explain, please.
So not much to explain. There's just no evidence here whatsoever. Scaremongering that you might see on WhatsApp, no medical evidence for this whatsoever. If the COVID-19 vaccine behaves like other vaccines, you have about a 1 in 25,000 chance of having a serious long-term side effect, which is very, very low.
Yeah, and and they're not irreversible either. So where there are side effects, as Dr. Bhatia mentioned, they're not irreversible, are they? That's the body just doing what the immunization is intended to do. Good. Okay. Another myth is doctors are pushing the vaccine on people. Do you want to explain that, Ricky?
Well, I was actually obviously in preparation for this and just to find some myth busting online. I saw this one as saying false, and I actually think it's actually probably slightly true. I mean, what we don't want, people should always be able to make an informed decision about whether they want anything in their body or not. It's your body, do what you wish. However, when it's being based on false information, resulting in people not getting a vaccine, not being protected, and therefore their families not potentially being protected, when we have been using vaccines, for 200 years since smallpox, every time we go on holiday, we think about having vaccines. When we're born, we give our kids vaccines. When vaccine take-up goes down, we had this with measles, and when we start seeing these horrible conditions come back, and these have a much higher mortality or chance of dying from than the problems that a vaccine could cause. I mean, it's so that's why actually maybe I'm a little bit pushy with people to say you need to get the vaccine, and because I genuinely think that's the right thing to do.
Yes, thank you. And I think that's important for everyone here to recognise and hear. Questions that have come up, I don't want to sort of miss them. Some of them are what the side effects, we've talked about that. We've talked about situation in hospital. I think we all know it's a breaking point. Will teachers and educators be a priority? Frontline workers are considered teachers and educators, so there will be. Is the gap between the initial and the second dose? What should it be? Because some are saying 3 weeks, some are saying 12 weeks, or likely change to 6 weeks. What is the gap at the moment?
So the gap should be 3 weeks for the Pfizer vaccine. However, a decision was made centrally that it was more important to vaccinate more people at the expense of giving the second of the people the dose at 3 weeks. But there's some talk now actually of there may even be improvements of having that second dose later, potentially. It's early days, but actually if and it depends what either you vaccinate as many people as possible, giving them some protection, or you concentrate on a small cohort and give them the full protection. And officially the data has only been tested for doing it at 3 weeks, and so that's what we know. But the decision has been made by government to extend that in order to protect more people and to save the most people, essentially.
Great, thank you. And I suppose that sort of second dose will be centrally managed as well, and the implementation will come in the same way. So the vaccine doesn't contain beef, and it doesn't contain pork or any animal products. I suppose there's not really much more to say than that, is there really?
Yeah, no egg, nothing. It's yeah, nothing in there at all. It's vegan.
It is vegan, and in fact, much of the fake news focuses on those things because it knows, fake news makers know that that's emotive, and that's why they sort of perpetuate these lies. That's what they are. Was there another myth or bust? Aborted fetal cells.
So actually, there's some history behind it. I think a few decades ago, that was a method of creating some vaccines at that time. But again, it's fake news that comes out because there has been inklings of this years and years and years and years ago. However, that's absolutely refuted. It's not the case.
Okay, all right. And was there one final? The vaccine was approved too quickly to be safe. I mean, the world was crying out for a vaccine with all that was going on with COVID-19, and so they just said, "Do you know what? Let's get this one out." Is that true though? Well, it isn't. We're saying it's false, but why might that be perceived to be the case?
So there was the vaccine has gone through exactly the same tests and trials as any other vaccine has. So in terms of its safety, it's gone through all the relevant checks. The way it was sped up was normally when you create a vaccine, you wait for all the data to come back, and then you analyze it, and then you decide, or you make your decisions as to what's going on with that vaccine. But what they changed, what the MHRA changed, which is the regulation body, they said what they could do was, as the data was coming in, they could do the analysis as it was happening. And that is because there was a pandemic and we needed a vaccine quickly. But in terms of the actual safety and the hoops that they've had to jump through, it's all been done as any other vaccine. It's been tested on 45,000 people or something. No significant adverse effects. It's a safe vaccine.
Yes. So, and that's reassuring. Here's a final myth that we need you to bust. I've already had COVID-19. I haven't. Maybe I have. I don't know. So I'm already immune. I need the vaccine then. Is that true?
So not true. We don't actually know how long your immunity lasts for after you've had COVID-19. It's an unknown, and actually the general thinking on this is we should still be vaccinated. Just to add there, if you have had COVID-19, the advice is to wait 3 or 4 weeks before having your vaccine if you know that you've had it recently. But it's false. You do need to have the vaccine if you've had COVID-19 in the past.
Right. Okay. And just sort of as to that question, really is, once you've had the vaccine, you can't spread the virus. Is that true or false? Once you've had the vaccine, you can't spread the virus.
It's false. So the virus is often just, your body might be protected, but even though you're generally protected in your body, when you are exposed to it in future, it can still settle in your upper airways. You can still cough and sneeze, and so you can still spread it.
And that's important for everyone to know.
It doesn't take hold of you and your body, but you can still spread it.
So you're safe if you're vaccinated, but everyone else isn't. And I think that's important for people to realise that and recognise that vaccination doesn't mean go out there and fun. Vaccination only is really useful once everybody has it, and that's why there's this big push, I suppose, to make sure everybody has it. Rika, before we go on to Dr. Bhatia in a little bit more detail, I think I'd want to hear from your plea to everyone who's listening today and who will to this later on.
I think from my point of view, you've got a 1 in 300 chance of dying of COVID. So if you take out age, and obviously older people have a higher chance of dying than younger people, overall you've got a 1 in 300 chance of dying if you get COVID. You've got a 1 in 10 chance of having long-term symptoms. So you must have heard of long COVID, where you have brain fog and you can't concentrate and you have really bad lethargy. This is kind of something which is becoming more and more apparent that it's a thing, and people can't function. I know I've got GP friends who are out of work because they've had COVID and they just can't function anymore. And so it's not just about the really bad acute thing. It's about how it affects you going on as well. So these are real dangers which can affect you and your family around you. And when you compare that to the vaccination which has been developed, which is no reason to believe that it's not like any other vaccination that we have out there, you've got a 1 in 25,000 chance of having a serious side effect from a vaccination. You've got a 1 in a million chance of having a life-threatening side effect. Compare that to the kind of numbers of how easy it is to catch COVID and 1 in 10 chance of having a long-term symptom. It really is a no-brainer, and all of the information that's circulating, or false information that's circulating, it's really easy to pick up and read on WhatsApp, but it's potentially going to sway people towards making not a very sensible decision for them and those around them.
So let's hope people do take heed from this, learn from this. First of all, fake news is a whole new issue in itself, and WhatsApp and social media has a lot to blame for that. Let's not forward things ourselves until we have verified it, and putting that disclaimer in, forwarded as received, that's not a disclaimer. That's still, you are perpetuating and forwarding false information. Unless something is verified through an official source, please do not forward it. And as Dr. Gondhia has just explained, the balance of risk, it's a no-brainer. So should the opportunity arise to get a vaccination, then please, by all means, attend up and running again. And I think we really need to do that as well. Thank you, Dr. Gondhia, for that. I also want to give it a bit more. Dr. Bhatia, as you've heard just earlier, is working in ICU accident emergency, and it's very much on the front line. Just to give you, we've only got a couple of minutes before we kind of end this session. I've got two questions for you. I'm going to go on to the first one first of all, which is, are there any instances that stand out for you from intensive care or A&E during this whole pandemic?
I guess a lot of depressing or sad incidents stand out, but I think I want to probably go on the positive side. Remember, we in our first wave we had a black gentleman who was admitted. Who, I remember, on my shift we were sort of like, he's doing really bad. We need to pull out. However, it was just an argument between one of my consultant colleagues and me that no, let's just give us a chance. Let's just carry on a little bit longer. We spoke to his wife, and on the phone at that time, no one was allowed. And she was like, just this one last chance, this gift for tonight. And we did, and we went ahead with it, because at the end of the day, we were all learning this new pandemic. It was all new for us. I think 2 months down the line, he was discharged out of ITU, and his wife came and sort of like hugged me, and she's like, "Thank you, doctor." And I think that kind of thing, and looking and seeing him walk, he was one of the first ITU patients who left from our ICU alive, and it was just a moment of proud, and I was glad I was young. It felt all that I've trained and learned really culminated down there into being, yep, this is what I was meant to do. So yeah, that is something that I remember.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting question, because I thought you maybe may elaborate on cases where, you know, it is very, very serious, but it says something about you when you want to focus on the more positive instances, and so thank you for sharing that. But clearly you do see some very sad and upsetting cases as well, no doubt. Here's a bit of a sort of a left field question, but how does faith play a role in this, or does it at all?
I think with the pandemic, my faith has, I'd say I've rediscovered faith more. Become much more trying to understand, you know, those questions that come in, why is there suffering kind of thing. That sort of, because you see death a lot more. I see death otherwise, but you see in the doses that you start seeing this pandemic, and you do ask those questions. And I think if it weren't for my faith, or understanding more of my faith and understanding trying to get the answers for it, I think it'd be very difficult. So I guess I've become much more religious in my outlook. I have started meditating, which I wasn't for a while, and that has really helped me through. So I think definitely it's helped out.
And just Ricky, on that point, Dr. Gondhia, I mean, is burnout becoming an issue now for health? I mean, Dr. Bhatia, very lucky that he has his faith to keep him going, and, you know, his spirituality that sort of helps him carry through very sort of conscientiously through this, because I can't imagine how it must be in ICU. But is burnout an issue among healthcare workers in this pandemic?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I'm not at the sharp end of this as a GP, with respect to Dr. Bhatia, and my wife works in London, and it is absolutely, you know, the wards are full to the rafters. The nurses who should be looking after 1 or 2 patients are looking after 5 or 6 patients, if not more. As a GP, obviously, we see people come to us for their care. And yes, so we're seeing frontline NHS workers who are burnt out, who, you know, are, you know, anxious. Mental health has become a huge issue, a really, really big issue during the pandemic. We're seeing lots more mental health. So definitely we are seeing burnout, but people are still ploughing on and doing their best and pitching up and getting their hands dirty, and, you know, and helping out. So it's, you know, it's a real testament to them.
It's unbelievable, unbelievable where the sole objective for these people is to save somebody's life, and that's the most important, because clearly they don't get paid enough to do that work at all, and the conditions are not there either. Listen, I'm getting a lot of messages and calls saying we need to end it there, but even more messages to say what fantastic work our doctors and frontline workers are doing. So hats off to you. Amazing job, applause, thank you from so many people. So I want to express my thank you to you, Dr. Ricky Gondhia, as well as the family of Dr. Nikhil Bhatia as well. Hi guys, and thank you. Thanks for joining us this evening. It was quite short notice as well. It's been we want to keep it short and snappy so that we all get an insight as to how that world is. You know, sometimes we lose sight of what's going on outside in the world because we're stuck in our four walls. So thank you for joining us. And I know, not hope, but I know that you will be joining us again as we, you know, health and well-being and all that stuff is really important for your patient. You know, we don't just do religious stuff, as you know. So good. Once again, thank you from all of us, and look forward to welcoming you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Dr. Gondhia or Ricky for me, and Dr. Bhatia or Nick for me. Weren't they brilliant? And it is sometimes, as I say, we do lose sight. We're not quite there when we don't quite appreciate how much hard work goes in saving people's lives. And it is unhelpful when we spread ridiculous messages about fake news. So please, my personal please do not forward anything on WhatsApp to, because you don't know who's going to read that. You don't know if people are going to take it seriously or as a joke, or whether they will then forward it on to other people. So if there's one thing, then please make sure that is the case. Once your turn comes for the vaccination, then by all means take it as soon as possible. Another aspect of healthcare, particularly when we talk about India, is Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is a traditional form of healing and medicine. It's what originally was used in Bharat, and it has its bases and roots in our scriptures and texts. And it's having somewhat of a renaissance in the sense that it is now being adopted more widely outside India, and it's known and regarded as a bona fide approach to medical treatment. So I'm very pleased this evening to be welcoming Shri Amarjeetji Bhamra, who is an expert in Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurveda. He is the Secretariat for All-Party Parliamentary Group, or APPG for short, for Indian Traditional Sciences. And he is a consultant. And again, an expert in this entire field. So Namaste, Bhamraji. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Namaste ji, Sat Shri Akal. How are you?
Sat Shri Akal. And so I thought it was important that we talk. The doctors aren't here, so there's nothing to worry about. That we could talk openly when it comes to Ayurveda. First, I wanted to ask you, what is Ayurveda's view on COVID-19, or more generally viral infections? What does Ayurveda say about viral infections?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for arranging this memorable occasion this year during the independence or the Republic Day celebrations of India. So Vande Mataram to you and all your listeners. I just actually made a few notes here a little bit earlier as I was waiting. So the first thing I think we need to understand is that there has been very recently Ministry of Ayush, the government of India, preliminary report on Ayurvedic clinical profile for COVID-19. And some of these publishers of the report are very, very Ayurvedic doctors, on the top of their game back in India. And so what they sort of discovered was that the Ayurvedic clinical profiling of COVID-19 a prerequisite to develop stand-alone and integrative treatment approach. So at present, Ayurvedic clinicians do not have access to COVID-19 patients in a clinical setting. So in these circumstances, a preliminary clinical profiling of COVID-19 based on review of modern medical and classical Ayurveda literature with input from allopathic clinic treating COVID-19 patients assumes a very high degree of significance. And having said that, you'll be very pleased to know that during the introduction that you made for the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Indian Traditional Sciences, that we have been working very hard on the ground for nearly best part of a year now since COVID hit these islands here. And the idea was really to try and subject a case study which would enhance the Ayurvedic approach to the understanding of this viral infection. And you'll be very pleased to know, and the listeners will be very pleased to know that this will be the first study outside India conducted by Western scientists in a Western scientific environment to actually bring about the greater understanding of Ayurveda and Ayurveda herbs that may be useful in treating COVID-19 patients in the future.
I mean, that's excellent news, and I think it's something is long overdue, and I know you're putting a lot of effort into that, and you're one of the sort of driving forces into sort of bringing Ayurveda back into prominence as a bona fide form of treatment. But when you talk about this sort of approach of Ayurveda, just for our viewers and certainly me, what does Ayurveda say about viral infections, and what approach does it take when you look for herbal treatments and that sort of thing, for illnesses that are caused by a virus?
Yes, and I'm sure you'll be supporting the concept of the Indian approach through Ayurveda as a one-to-one medicine system. As you've known for over centuries, we've always tried to, Ayurvedic physicians have always tried to identify the root cause of the problem by actually ascertaining information through the wrist to try and identify where the actual problem is sitting in the system and not just addressing the symptom. So Ayurveda has 8 approaches, to this examination process. So having said that, and trying to bring in your question, and looking at your question, the results that we have been able to identify so far from the research that I had spoken to you a little bit about earlier from the government of India is that it's understood that the COVID-19 actually comes from a perspective of Vata Kapha, right? And as your esteemed viewers this evening will probably be aware that the complete the program for Ayurveda is based on the 5 elements, and so these are the 2 of the 5 elements. Vata is the energy of movement, and Kapha is the energy of lubrication and structure. So this is the nearest possible result that we've been able to ascertain to date, and then try and hopefully work with some significant herbs that are able to look at how to take care of when these elements are out of kilter, when they are not sort of part of the normal system. And I think I almost perhaps might guess what treatments might be suitable for Vata Kapha derangement. And so what we're doing here now is basically looking at various different herbs and herbal mineral preparations used to treat COVID-19. So the overall aim is to improve the immune system and to help bodies initiate mechanism to deal with the problem, the underlying problem here. And so what we're going to be looking at, without actually giving too much information out, before it becomes legitimate, is that we will be looking at ashwagandha. India has been looking at ashwagandha for some time. So we're looking also at gaduchi, which is another fine Ayurvedic formula. And then we're also looking at pipali, which is another extremely fine Ayurvedic preparation, as well as sudarshan. So these are the four herbs that we will be looking at the opportunities to discover their fortifying elements to help with the COVID patients. And so obviously there are also various other herbs like neem and turmeric, that have actually been used as supportive remedies.
So it sounds like to me, Amarjeetji, that the approach Ayurveda uses is holistic. It isn't just about the symptom. It's very much about the imbalances in the entire body, and which way you refer to Vata and Kapha, and then others will be Pitta, etc. In where the imbalances is in the body, and then the Ayurveda approach is also designed to boost the immunity back into action. And one of the ways they look to do that is through the herbal preparations that you mentioned. I think it was ashwagandha, which many people will be already guruchi, or I think it's also known as sudarshan, which I'm not that familiar, but I think it's a combination of different herbs. Sudarshan might be, as well as hadi and neem. So these are being looked at as ways of doing what you described earlier on. So that's very interesting. We had a question that come up also of is steam something that is being looked at or has been used within Ayurveda, or is that something that is steam? This is steam inhalation, or is this something that's just more contemporary?
Steaming has been part of Ayurvedic approach for many thousands of years. Yes, absolutely. The idea really here now is that there have been so many approaches. From so we have Siddha Ayurveda, we have Ayurveda, we have Unani Ayurveda, we have Unani medicine. So there are many applications that are going on in their hand simultaneously. But I hope you'll give us the benefit of really putting this study through the United Kingdom MHRA process, which will will become sort of a valid proposition for these programs of herbs. And I think that perhaps if we're able to then crack, the outcome in the direction that we deem fit it should, then I think that UK will also then be leading the way for the rest of the world to follow some of these fine examples of Indian medicine systems.
Yeah, I think we want to be supportive. Where can someone find more information about this initiative. As we mentioned earlier, you're the driving force behind the all-parliamentary group for Indian sciences. But where can someone find more information? The Ayush study, which is from the government of India, or a part of. How else? First of all, how can we access it? And second of all, how can we support that initiative?
It would be really wonderful. Thank you so much, for your thoughts. We would love to share some of the ideas and some of the programs that we want to roll out in the future. So I mean, this study is going to be not just in one particular part of UK or in one specific part of London. So this will be in different parts of the UK. So I think I can see community leaders like you coming along and making available people who could be part of this study. So that would be very useful. And number two, I think the best approach at this moment in time is you have my contact details. So if you care to contact me, through my email address, and we can then sort of, keep you updated as to how we're developing the program.
Excellent. Okay, I'm afraid we are quite over time. It is a weekday, a working day, and still a school day for many of us. So we're going to respect that. Amarjeetji, it's been a pleasure having you here, and your wisdom and of course passion for the Indian sciences and the various aspects of Ayurveda are inspirational for us, because I'm sure we can look into this as individuals a lot more further. I'm sure your foundation would look to encourage also the initiative that you've started with the all parliamentary group as well. So we will be contacting you in the future and sharing the details of all the work that you're doing.
Very finally, when it comes to Indian sciences, or it comes to Ayurveda or Unani or Siddha or Yoga, and we must also try and understand that we are now part of a country which is our home. So when we look at United Kingdom, we look at Germany, look at Netherlands. So these are our countries, and we're here to stay. And I think we need to make that very formidable commitment to bring in this vast ancient knowledge from one of the gifts that India has had to offer over thousands of years, and see how we can actually work not only with plants and herbs specifically from India at this moment in time, obviously study what we have, but in due course to look at alternative plants that match the same medicinal qualities from our gardens and our farms here in Europe.
No, that's quite an ambitious vision, but it makes sense, because obviously a lot of things that grew in India in ancient times don't necessarily grow here, and things that grow here and are available here were perhaps never available there either. So once again, I must thank.
Yes, 3 out of every 5 herbs in India are being destroyed.
Right. Wow.
Or have been destroyed. So that's the environment that we're looking at.
But hopefully, I mean, the more popular that Ayurveda becomes, and it creates a demand for those herbs, and then they're more protected. And that's where the work you're doing will go some way towards addressing and assisting that. Listen, I very much appreciate the time that you've shared with us here this evening. As I explained earlier on, we're looking to provide as much support as we can. And thank you so much. Aapka bada dhanyawad hai that you've given your valuable time this evening and enlightened us on an object many of us are not aware of. Thank you so much. Namaste and Sat Sri Akal.
Sat Sri Akal. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our guests there, our panelists, Dr. Nikhil Bhatia, Dr. Ricky Gondhia, and Amarjeetji Bhamra, and Bhavin for I thought, a very insightful session on COVID as well as on Ayurveda. So thank you very much for that. Apologies, everyone. We are running slightly late, but we are now at the end of our program. We've probably only got another 5 to 10 minutes, so please hang in there for the last part. So this event has been produced by Yog Foundation, and if you are new to our community, Yog Foundation is a UK-based charity that seeks to bring the community together to do good. We offer a load of activities for the community, especially for children, all for free, all in the spirit of Seva. And we believe that it is vital that we ensure that our faith, our culture, our traditions, many of which we saw today, are kept alive amongst the youth, because it only takes one generation to lose this heritage. So Yog Foundation, as some of you may know, we have a responsibility to lead the light and lead the way, rather, and help bring the connection with our roots and faith. And we want to be serving the entire humanity, not just the Asian or Indian community, but serving everyone to do good. And the next step in creating a community, the next step here is to create a community hub and find a permanent place where we can all come together. And our community is, growing so quickly, so we really need a place of worship as well. So we've identified a site, as many of you will know, and we are working very hard to acquire that site. We need your support. We will need your support, dhan, man, dhan, whether that's physically, financially, or through your intelligence, to make this dream a reality. And when we have this place, it's going to be transformational. It's going to be a place where we can all come together to connect spiritually. We can build relationships with divine. Imagine this celebration, but in person. How amazing that would be, right? And here's just some of the things that we plan to do with this site, where we would, come together to do seva. It won't be just a mandir. It'll be much more than that. We would be doing classes there. We'll be offering free meals to people. We'd have a vegan restaurant. We'd have a yoga center and a meditation zone, an Ayurvedic clinic and spa, very apt given what we've just been talking about. A daycare center for the elderly, somewhere where they can come together, be happy, socialize, reduce loneliness and isolation, all of these things. So as I mentioned, this is a grand vision that we have for our community. It will be something special, and it will only be possible with your support and help. Please do help in any way you can. We will be reaching out to you all very soon. So that's everything in terms of announcements. The last part of our event will be we'll be singing the song of India, the Indian national anthem. Before we get to that, thank you again to all of the people who have made this event possible. From all of our Desh Bhakti singers to the children, the amazing children who created the video, the dance, the best wishes in all different languages. Thank you to all of our panelists, and thank you to the team the technical team who have made all of this, this tech wizardry possible, where we can go from one place to another so seamlessly. So I hope you really enjoyed this event. The final part of our event now will be singing the song of India. Now we have two families from the Yog Foundation community who are joining us and who are going to be singing together. I believe we have the T and the from so Ramji Bhai there, and Khushi and Sahaj as well. So I'm gonna leave it and then India. I request if anyone would like to stand at this point in time, please do stand for the national anthem.
जय हे भारत भाग्य पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे, तब शुभ आशीष मागे, गाए तव जय गाथा। जय है भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे, जय हे, जय 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 हे। भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय।
जय हिंद।
जय हिंद।
Bharat Mata ki Jai, Jai Hind. Thank you very much to the Chatterjees from Bengal, to the Kerais from Gujarat, via the UK for coming together to give us the Song of India. And thank you all for joining us for today's event. I hope you have enjoyed this event. I hope that you found it entertaining, insightful, educational, and inspiring. And we will see you next time. Namaste. Bharat Mata ki Jai, Jai Hind.